Hi there. So for those of you who are using AMD's new FSR feature and you're not really impressed, like you find the TAA is too blurry or has too much ghosting and artifacting, and the FXAA ends up looking too chunky, you get too much aliasing, things like that. There are ways to clean up the TAA a little bit so that the ghosting isn't quite as noticeable and the game looks crisper. And I'm going to go through a few ways you can do that. So, first thing you want to do is you want to disable the in-game sharpening filter, because the in-game sharpening filter is just basically a luminance sharpening filter that is going to sharpen the ghosting and artifacts from TAA, and it's going to end up making it look very grainy and off-putting. It makes TAA look kind of fugly. So you're going to want to go into this game option.txt in your documents and Black Desert folder. And you're going to want to take and change post filter to 0. Now in the user cache folder, there's also going to be a folder that is based on your account ID. So it's going to change for you. Mine is this one here, and you're going to want to open the game variable.xml, preferably with something like Notepad++ or Sublime Text that knows the formatting for XML, so it's a little easier to read. And you're going to want to change anywhere that you find post filter. You're going to want to change the value that is like a 1 or a 2. You're going to want to change it to 0. And that's going to be there a couple times in the document, and there's more than one game variable.xml file here in the user cache folder. You have to just find the one that's relevant to you, but if you're paranoid or something, you can just change all of them to make sure that those XML files don't have any post filters equals 1 or things like that. So just change them all to 0. And make sure that it reads exactly as I have right here. You don't want to like leave out a quote or leave out the slash at the end. Make sure that it reads exactly as I have right here. Otherwise, you may run into issues and you may have to just delete your user cache folder and start again. All right, and then from there, we are going to bring some sharpening back, because TAA on its own without a sharpening pass is not very clear. It ends up looking kind of muddy. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be for an Nvidia setup. AMD has a similar setup, but there's a key feature to Nvidia's that I want to highlight here. So we're going to go into program settings, because I only want this to apply to Black Desert. And I have a sharpening pass set to sharpen by 5%. But a key setting here is ignore film grain. This is going to cause it to actually ignore the ghosting from TAA, things like shimmering water effects. It's not going to sharpen those. So basically, just certain textures and things like that get sharpened, and the TAA ghosting doesn't. So it ends up cleaning it up quite nicely. And then you just want to do you just want to set this to your preference. You can have more sharpening than this, you can have less. Even at 0%, there's still a little bit. But then you just want to click OK, and then there's going to be an apply button down here. But I already have it set, so we're just going to go from there. And I have this already applied on Black Desert running in the background, so I'm just going to switch over to that view real quick. And you can see, yeah, it's nighttime, which makes it a little bit odd. I'll go full screen, because here's another point. The ghosting is a lot less apparent in full screen than it is in borderless window. And we can just walk around here, and I'm not particularly keen to any trails that are following my character. The game world seems pretty sharp. I also have AMD FSR turned on at ultra quality mode, and the game just seems very fluid and responsive. And on my GTX 1070, the frame rate is remaining above 100 right now. Granted, no skill effects are flying, but it is what it is. And it just looks like a very clean image by comparison. I would prefer native resolution, but at the same time, I don't think I can really drive that without dipping below 60 at some points during combat or PvE, and that's just kind of jarring. It looks much better when you have G-Sync or FreeSync enabled, but I digress. You can have a decently sharp image. I don't really see a whole lot of ghosting from the artifacts from TAA because of the sharpening pass by Nvidia's sharpening filter. As long as you disable the in-game sharpening filter, the artifacts from TAA aren't going to be quite as apparent, and you will be just fine to do this. And it should clean up the image quite nicely and let you enjoy AMD's FSR frame rate increases. I find at 1080p, anything below ultra quality is a bit too soft, but ultra quality is a nice frame rate increase. So for example, not applied, and we'll let, my frame rate counter is off screen for you guys, but I have 85 frames per second when there is no FSR applied. And then I'll turn it on at ultra quality. And the image quality stays pretty good, but my frame rate goes up to 111. And in gameplay, it's almost indistinguishable at this point, but going any lower than ultra quality gets kind of soft, especially at 1080p. If you play at 1440p or 4K, you may be able to make good use of the lower quality settings, but ultra quality for me is right where it's at because it gives me that little bit of frame rate boost, and the visual quality is still very, very good. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and you guys can enjoy BDO. Bye for now.